I would like to thank the organizers for giving an opportunity for us, for our bank, to participate in such a webinar. And this is like, I mean, for a banker who's leading the operational side of operations and looking at the trade transactions at the ground level, to participate in a high level talk and to see the direction and views of the policymakers is an interesting addition to his knowledge. Sir, since I'm the sole representative from the banking sector, I would like to confine my perspective to the trade and commerce developments and the incoming impact of COVID and the post-COVID scenario on the trade between India and Sri Lanka. So as a brief background, I would just like to present some statistics for the trade statistics between India and Sri Lanka. So India continues to be Sri Lanka's largest trading partner with a share of 16% in Sri Lanka's total trade with the entire world. The total trade between two countries was 6.2 billion in 2018 and 19, of which Indian exports to Sri Lanka were US dollars 4.7 billion and imports were US dollars 1.5 billion. The total trade decreased to USD 4.70 billion in 1920, out of which India exports to Sri Lanka were 3.80 billion and imports were 0.903 billion. The decline in the total trade between these two countries was around 23.07%. Basically, the imports from China has declined as Sri Lanka has imported goods from other countries which were reportedly more cost effective. The share of other countries, basically exports of China, have increased substantially to Sri Lanka. So in this current scenario where we have been observing at the ground level, where we have a unique perspective of being a bank both in India and having operations in Sri Lanka, we have been able to closely observe the various trade movements between the two countries. This not only is related to the current transactions, but also the FDI transactions, which have slowed down substantially. Sir, the basic question of the decline in the export is a perception of a certain promoters or companies that is saying that there's a too much dependence on India or for sourcing imports from India because the Chinese goods are more competitive. So in this connection, basically due to the downgrade of sovereign rating, and even before that, the country rating was at BB+. There was a lot of strain on the banking sector, the local domestic banks, to fund the imports which were dollar denominated. The imports for China, though they were on the whole, the pricing of the goods, the invoice value was very low. There were hidden transaction costs which have not been taken into account while substituting the imported goods from India. So the cost of borrowing for dollar borrowings has gone up substantially in last 1 year, both in the domestic market and as well as the international market, on account of declining credit rating of Sri Lankan as a sovereign rating, and consequently the rating of the banks. The bargaining power is reduced. The cost of raising dollar debt has gone up. Interbank borrowings rates are shooting up from 1.5% a year ago to as high as 5.5 to 6% for 1 year in this current year. These costs have in fact have to be added to the cost of goods which are being imported from some other countries, which are denominated in dollars or other hard currencies. We already had a mechanism, ACU mechanism in this place, one of whose primary objective was to conserve foreign exchange and to promote trade between the ACU 9 member countries. So this ACU mechanism was basically one of the key objective was to conserve the foreign exchange reserves of the participating country and also to reduce the transfer costs. This is the correct time, even when we look at the criticism of free trade agreement by certain quarters here in Sri Lanka, telling that imports from India are on the high side as opposed to the exports from Sri Lanka to India. So one thing has to be taken into, cognizance is that the imports which are made from India are not under the FTA agreement. These imports actually are made because these imports are the most competitive at most competitive prices which can be imported by Sri Lankan companies. On the other hand, Sri Lankan exporters have been utilizing FTA to the extent of 80% of the exported goods to India attract a 0% tariff duty. So the imports which seem to be on the higher side are not under FTA. So this is the recognition which should be looked into by both the exporters and importers from Sri Lanka while going forward on discussions on ETCA. So coming back to the Asian Clearing Union mechanism, there is a need right now for the policy makers in Sri Lanka where we are struggling with external debt repayments, where there is a dollar scarcity for in the country, to route or substitute the goods which are denominated in dollars to the goods which can be bought from India under ACU mechanism. Basically, being SBI or being side on the both the side where we have a country India which is rated triple B, and we are also operating Sri Lanka which is at CAA plus as per by Moody's and Fitch. There has been a lot of difference between the borrowing capacity of both the countries. As State Bank of India, we are uniquely positioned here to help out the importers and exporters in Sri Lanka in getting their dollar funding needs. This aspect is also to be looked into by the policymakers in Sri Lanka for leveraging the banking system, the Indian banks operating in India, the other banks operating in India for getting the foreign fundings for the imports. So secondly, during our interactions with various companies which are coming to operate in Sri Lanka or are executing projects in India, there we find that even though their Sri Lankan Trade Development Board has a web portal, there is a certain lack of transparency or the certain lack of knowledge about the various opportunities available in Sri Lanka. So the pricing of goods also here, it's dependent on the local operators here, and there is a lot of competition between various entities, which is not resulting in the correct price discovery, and there is an element of middlemen and other parties involved, which raises up the cost of transactions or imports to Sri Lanka. There is a need to provide a web portal, a trade-based web portal, where the companies or the importer exporters from both countries can come together, place their bids or invite bids for their procurement needs, so that there is a free flow of exchange of information and market related information. This will also enable the competition between various major players, which will result in lower pricing for both the exports and imports into and out of Sri Lanka. So this on the final part. So there is a lot of efforts, like our earlier speakers have been telling, lot of efforts, lot of initiatives, lots of webinars going on increasing the trade between the countries. But I feel, sir, there is a lack of certain ground level measures which could be done to further promote the trade between two countries. We have the Chamber of Commerce holding a webinar with Indian SME Accelerated Network some time back, and there were investment opportunities were discussed in field of pharmaceuticals and textiles for export processing zones, which are coming up in Hambantota and Irua. So unfortunately, the bankers or the financial system are not the part of these discussions. So we have a lot of discussions going on. The structuring of the deal or the structuring of the investment proposal from either way, from the Indian side and the Sri Lankan side, it's presented later to the financial system. It takes a lot of time in grounding that business in Sri Lanka or in India. If there is a sharing of information, or the concerned Ceylon Chamber of Commerce or the concerned party here host road shows along with the banks, with State Bank of India, for example, for furthering their requirements or looking for investments in selected segments in India, I think so. It will be with banks being the premier lending institutions, the project lending institutions in India, it will be a very much seamless effort for getting the investments and grounding the investments either in Sri Lanka or in India. So in this connection, I just like to point out that recently a 100 million line of credit for implementing solar projects was granted by Indian government. And so I would just like to point out in the background of this announcement that in 2017, World Bank had granted 625 million loan to Indian government for implementing solar projects, and State Bank of India was the disbursing authority and the loan evaluation authority for this particular project. Now, sir, I have received an inquiry about from a promoter who is willing to come to Sri Lanka and provide the solar funding, implement the solar projects in Sri Lanka. The first thing he called me from India and asked me the question was whether State Bank of India in Colombo would like to fund my project in Sri Lanka. And that company is one of the leading companies, solar implementing companies in India, a very informed company. Even then, and being a customer of State Bank of India, proper in India, still had a query to ask whether funding will be available for him to implement the project in Sri Lanka. So these are the points where the interaction can be led even at the government level, directly with the bank to leverage the expertise of State Bank of India in implementing MSME projects, the solar projects, so that this line of credit which is availed, the projects under that can be grounded very easily and seamlessly. So this is a couple of operational points which I believe can go a long way in furthering trade and cooperation between both the countries. And I would like to thank you all once again for giving an opportunity to our bank for participating in this. Thank you very much, sir.